guys, I'm Greg from Zoho Expert. It's been ages since I made a video. I feel terrible about it, and so today I am going to make a quick video. Before we start, this is my YouTube channel. Thank you so much to my subscribers. Subscriber count's getting up high now. We're almost at 300, which is awesome. I remember when we were struggling to get up to 100. So thank you so much for your support, even when I haven't been uploading videos. So I really appreciate that. I've been super busy with my property business, and I've had so many clients hiring me for Zoho Expert that every free moment I've had, I've been working on client work for Zoho Expert. But I've been doing some awesome projects, been flexing my kind of existing skills with making client portals and document collection systems, automation processes, all of that jazz. It's been a lot of fun. Also learned some new skills, flex some new areas, and it's been awesome. So yeah, I'll be making videos on those things as soon as I've got time. But today's video is all about forms and flow and CRM and how we can create a subform inside forms to and then how to process that data inside Zoho Flow to create multiple items inside CRM. So anyone who has basic skills of Zoho Flow, I assume knows how to use the integrations to take the form entry and create a record on the CRM from that form entry, which is all good. But the problem is when we have a subform, and we want to create multiple items on the CRM, that is not possible through the base integration. So let's call this Create Multiple Entries on CRM from Subform Entry, or from Subform Entries. Okay. So it's actually pretty basic and pretty simple. So let's first start with a subform, but obviously in your case you might want other things, like you might want a so actually I'm going to be using these onboarding items as my items that I want to request. So what we're going to do is we're going to see here, we've got an onboarding record. So let's see what we have on this onboarding record, and we'll add this field to our form. All right, let's see here. Oh, good. So we have an onboarding hash. So what we'll do is we'll make a thing here called a single line field called onboarding hash. And this will be a hidden field. Save that. All right, so now what we need is we need our subform, and let's where's our subform? It's under advanced fields, subform. Okay, so now this subform we're going to use, or this whole form we're going to use to add additional onboarding items. So that is these things that were in here. So this might be things like last 3 months bank statements, or proof of address, proof of ID, whatever it happens to be. So we can see here that we need a name for the items, we need a hash, we need a record to attach it to, we need a document type, a status, and a reject message. Now, most of these things we don't actually need to input. The only thing we really need to know is the document type, because everything else should be set by the system, and then obviously which onboarding record to attach it to. So let's just pop on in here, and let's put a single, actually not a single line, let's do a drop down. And then if we look at the various different types of documents we have here, we have proof of ID, proof of address, last 3 months, current bank statements or bank account statements, and birth certificate. So let's duplicate those. So we'll go proof of ID, proof of address, last 3 months personal bank account statements. Let's just check that I'm spelling this correct. Last 3 months current bank account statements. The reason I want these to match is because I want to use this to feed that drop-down list later, and then birth certificate. I'll show you how that works, guys. And this will be called document type. Okay, let's close out of our subform. Let's just call this add additional onboarding items. And I quite like this pop-up view. So when I'm recording lots of data inside the subform, I like the pop-up view. But otherwise, I'll go inline when it's something simple. Now, we don't need a max, but we've only got 4 different types of documents, so we might as well have a max. Here, we're going to say, don't let us put multiple of the same document type in, which just makes sense. You know, why would you ask somebody for their bank statement or passport twice in a row? So I'm going to click save on that. Now you could add as much information as you want here. Some of my client systems, we have lots of information that we ask for on each item, and you could then ask for that, you know, within your form. But for now, this is all we actually need. So now I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to let it load, and then I'm going to go to field aliases. I'm going to set an alias for the onboarding hash, and I'm just going to call this OH. Save. And now we're going to go to share, and we're going to get the public link, copy, and now in here we're going to say $OH equals, and then let's put in our onboarding hash for this onboarding record. Now this is the onboarding record that has the onboarding items attached to it. So we'll pop that on there, enter, and now this form will, you know, collect what we need. And later we will use Flow to send it to the CRM. So let's do that now. So if we create our flow and we call this Subform entries to CRM. Example for video, take subform entries and send data, and use data to create multiple CRM records. Create. Now our trigger for this is going to be our form, and the nice thing when doing this is that it should be able to tell what our form data is going to look like when we call it in. It takes a moment to load. You'll see on the left hand side here when this changes. There we go. Okay, so we're going to choose forms. I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs in the background. My wife is ill today, and she's riling up the dogs, I think. So entry submitted. So we choose the new version, and we go next, and then we choose our connection. So just, you know, if you don't have a connection, you create a new one here. So the form, we're going to use the subform. You know, that's the name of our form here. So you would just search for whichever one your form is named from, and we'd click done. Now, the first thing we need to do, and this is where it gets slightly complicated, is we need to create a script, a custom function. So what we'll do is we'll go create, and we'll call this get subform data and create multiple CRM records. Okay. And we don't actually need to return anything. We could return a map if we wanted to of all the completed items or a list, but I'm just going to say return nothing. So incoming will be subform data list. Okay. Actually, let's call the subform entries list just because it makes it easier to work with later. Okay, and then we'll say this is a list that's coming in, because how Zoho works is each response you add to this form will be put into a list. Oh. Okay, so this will be a list. So it'll be proof of ID, comma, last 3 months current account statements, comma, proof of address. So we're saying when we get this list in, or work with this list, that's basically what we're saying. Now, something else we need actually, we need a string, and this string is the onboarding record hash or onboarding hash. Okay, let me, just because for some people that's going to be confusing, so let me come out of this and I'll do this again. Okay, so we go create new function, we call it that. Oh shit. Okay, we call it create multiple CRM records from Subform. Okay, it returns nothing, and this is Subform entries list. And we choose the type list, and then here we're going to add onboarding hash, and this is going to be a string. And that's because in here we have a hidden field called onboarding hash, and we want to be able to work with that inside this custom function. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is let's say if onboarding hash is not equal to null and onboarding hash is not equal to blank string, then do what we want. Else info error missing onboarding hash. Now that should never be the case because we will make the onboarding hash mandatory in Forms. So if we go back to the builder, we can click here and we can make this mandatory, and then you can create rules. So what I often do is I will put a description box in here, and then I'll have a rule that hides the description box normally. Let's say this hash was missing. Let's do that now. So for example, okay, let's make this red. All right, so now what we do is we go settings, or actually rules, and we say field rules. So if onboarding hash is empty, then show description. And what I like to do is give these things better names than just description. So this here, for example, we would edit the properties and we'd call this missing onboarding hash error message. Save. All right, so, and actually we want to make this a minimum entry level of 1 because we don't want to screw around and have this feed data to Zoho Flow with no items selected. Okay, so now if we submit this and we go back to our flow, actually let's open Flow in a new window. And what did we call it? I think we just called it Subform. Yeah, there we go. Oh, idiot here, didn't turn it on, so let's turn it on. My screen software is getting in the way. Oh, okay, it's not letting me do it. The problem we have is we need to know what the field is called. So I'm going to assume it's just called Subform. So let's go if Subform entries list is empty, is equals false. That means this is all good. Good, we have data. Else info error missing subform entries. Okay, so now we know that we've got an onboarding hash and we know that we've got data in our onboarding or our entries list. So now we say for each subform entry in subform entries list, let's just say info subform entry. Okay, save. There we go. So we can take that out. We can drag this in here. Our subform entry. Now you see here, this is the, oh no, there we go. Add additional. That's cool. It doesn't always give you that. Sometimes you have to find that. And our onboarding hash is there. So what we're doing is we're linking up what comes in from the form to our script that we just created. So you remember at the beginning when we were making our script and we were saying we have subform entries list and we have onboarding hash. Now's where we say here's where you get that data from Zoho. You get it from the form. So now we save and we turn our function on. Now, if we submit an entry on here, now you see here, because I've reloaded, there's no hash, so it's given us this error. That's cool, isn't it? So if we go back, now we've got our onboarding hash in the top here again. So let's add proof of address or proof of ID and birth certificate. Submit. So now if we go back to Flow and we click on our history, we can see one's come in. Now here's where we get the good information. So we click on output and we can see what actually got sent. So you see the field's just called drop down. Okay, and this means it's in a list. See these square brackets, and inside the list you can see things are separated by a comma. Now inside the squiggly brackets, this is a map or an array, and these here have multiple things like this normally, where you've got the inverted commas, then you've got the colon, then you've got the inverted commas. So this is the key and this is the value. And usually you'll have a comma after here and you'll have multiple lines of these, and that's called a map. So it's just called drop down. So now what we can do is we can go back to our function and we can edit our function, because now we know what this is called inside here. And for example, we could go get JSON, and this now is our document name. So document name equals, or it's not actually document name, sorry, it's document type. Okay, so that's good. So now we have the information coming in from here with the various document types we want and with our onboarding hash. So now's where we can get creative. So if we go onto our form here, we know what the document type is. We know that we're requesting new documents. So the status would be pending, what's it, pending something. What do we call it? Oh, requested. There we go. I don't even have a status field on here. Normally I would. So anyway, we'll just leave it like this. So we go back into Flow. Status equals pending, or actually, sorry, requested. Okay. And now we need document name. Okay, so the document name is going to be called whatever the status is, hyphen, the name of the document type. But you'll see here, inside our actual system, we also follow it by the contact name who we're requesting it from. And if we wanted to do that, we would just have to add a field up here, or add an additional field to feed in, and this would be string onboarding subject name. Well, actually, an easier way to do this, much easier way to do this, would be to just get it up here. Let's say if onboarding hash is not null, so get onboarding record from CRM, and here we want to say so onboarding record equals zoho.crm.searchRecords, and we want to search the, now what are they called? Oh, sorry guys, my screen recording software is so annoying. See, if I had over 1,000 subscribers and I could monetize the YouTube channel, I could pay for some software, some better software to record my screen. So subscribe and share. All right, so I'm just loading up my settings now so I can see the API names. Where are we? Customization. There it is. No, developer space, APIs. There we go. And we want to go API names. And we are working in the onboarding now. Oh, it's just called onboarding. Great. So we want to go back to Flow. And we want to work in the module onboarding. And now this is where it gets a bit tricky. So inverted commas, open brackets, close brackets, and now we need the API name for the field we're working with. So we're working with the onboarding hash. and here we want to go, so onboarding hash colon equals colon, and now we want to end our string, go plus plus, and here put onboarding hash. So what we're saying is find all records on the CRM, see CRM, find all records in onboarding where the onboarding hash equals the onboarding hash that we're bringing in here. Okay? Now, because I know how I've set up the CRM and I know that this is a unique field, so only one record can have the same onboarding hash, I don't need to do anything else in here. I can just say bring in all records where the onboarding hash equals the onboarding hash that we're putting in here. But if you didn't do that, you might get a list back and then you'd be in trouble. Okay, so inside the onboarding hash, we can see here we've got onboarding contact. So now we want to say, so if onboarding record is empty is equal to false, then get the contact name. So we will say else info error onboarding record not found. Okay, so but if we're in the top section here, it means we did find an onboarding record. So now we want to say onboarding contact equals onboarding record dot get JSON with the API name onboarding contact. Now, this is not going to actually bring us a contact name or a contact ID. It's going to bring us something that I like to call the mini record, which is a map of the ID and the name. So now what we can do is we can say, get us the onboarding contact name is equal to the onboarding mini record dot get JSON, and now it's just name, all lowercase. Okay, and that is just the name of the onboarding contact record. We could also get the ID if we wanted to. So we could say onboarding contact record. Now we don't need this, but I'm just showing you, equals onboarding mini record dot get JSON ID. Okay, but we don't actually need that, so I'm just going to take that out. All right, so now in the else, we're going to say here, that equals blank string, okay? And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say this equals space hyphen space plus that. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to add on the end of the document type just the onboarding contact name. So if we found the contact, it'll add a space, a hyphen, a space, and then the name of the contact. But if it didn't find the contact, it'll just add nothing, and it'll add nothing to the end of this. If we put our space hyphen space here, and it didn't find the contact, then we'd end up with some weird looking things where it says the status, the type, hyphen, nothing. So, you know, just trust me, that works. All right, so now we're going to save, and we're going to exit out of there, and we're going to add some additional items here. And we're going to submit. Now, if we go back to our history and we refresh, we can now see what this is doing. So input is bringing in all of these things. So I should have actually outputs. Oh, we haven't done anything with that information yet. Okay, so we come back into our record or our custom function, but now we know this is all working, and we've got this document name, okay, which is our field, what's the data that we need to make each onboarding item. So this is an onboarding item here. Now, we're not putting in the hash because that should be done by a workflow inside the system. Oh, we do have a status. Ugh, okay, I was looking at the wrong thing. So that's fine, we've got the status information. So we'll go in here and we'll change this to onboarding items. And now we can see all the API names that we want. So they're really simple. I've named them well here, so I'm happy with this. So status, onboarding record, and name. These are the and document type. These are the 4 things that we're going to put in here. So let's go back to our function, and we're going to make some notes for ourselves here. So we're going to say prepare map for record create. Okay, so now firstly we need to make a map. So we're going to say create CRM onboarding item record equals map. Okay, so now inside this for each loop, you see here for each subform entry, we're creating a fresh map. This is to stop us accidentally using some information from one entry in another entry. It's not important here because each entry only has the name of the item in it, so it's not going to screw this stuff up. But it's better to always create your map inside the for each loop so that you overwrite the previous map's data in case there's ever an error. Okay, so we'll say that dot put, and that's how we put information inside our map. Now we always have a string there, comma, and then our value there. Okay, so this is what we need now. So I'm going to copy this. So we need the 4 of these, I think I said. Okay, so see 4. Now we go back to our API names and we start with document type. They often come in with that extra thing on the end. Now we need the name. Name is a mandatory field, so you've always got to put name in. And then we want onboarding record. Now that's important. That's how we link it together with the rest of the application. And finally, the status. And we know the status is requested. Okay. So now, if we've done this right, which we have, everything other than document name is well thought out here. Okay, so let's say document type, see matches document type, status matches status. So the only thing really is the document name, which technically should be called request name, because it's not the document, it's the request itself. And then this onboarding record, actually there we go, we do need the contact ID. Isn't that interesting? Okay, oh no, we don't need the record ID, sorry, the contact ID. We need the actual record ID of the onboarding record. So record ID equals that dot get JSON ID. There we go. And we'll just in case, we'll put here that equals null. Okay, so we will now say onboarding record. Now it should remember that this is a integer, but we're going to say too long, like that. See, this is what I've added to the end, and that just ensures, makes 100% sure that whatever number is in here is considered as a number as opposed to a string. So that's really important. Okay, so now we've got our map. So the next thing we want to do is we want to update or create the record. So now we'll say create record on CRM. Okay, so now we'll say create CRM onboarding record. Now this should actually say map, like that. I think naming is very important. I've worked on so many client accounts where they just have like MP and weird things written here. So I try to read their code and it's impossible. And it's because they've copied and pasted other people's code, and those people think they're clever by putting in really short names for everything, and it's concise. It's such a short-term thing. Yes, it takes me a little bit longer to write code, but I can read this back in 10 years time and I'll know exactly what this does, and I'll be able to fix it or change it or improve on it. When you've just got MP and ST and weird things written, it's impossible to understand, and it takes you hours just to try work out what the original code was. Anyway, enough of my rant. So now we're saying create CRM onboarding item record response. So you see we've got the map is the map of data, and the response is the response from the CRM. So equals zoho.crm.create record, and now we want to create this in, and we don't want to create it in onboarding itself, we want to create it in onboarding items. Now, I know that this is just called onboarding items, but just to be safe, I'm going to go back to API names, and I'm going to go onboarding items, and then I'm going to go back to my script, and I'm going to paste that in there. And now in this key value area, it wants me to put where the map is that contains the data for the record we want to create, which is here. But finally, and this is very important, we need to trigger workflow. I think it's workflow individual, but I'm going to just Google just to make sure it's not workflows. Yeah, workflow individual. Okay, perfect. So we'll go back here. And what that does is it tells Zoho that when this record is created, we want to trigger any workflows that trigger on create record. And that's important because our hash should come in from that record. And now we're just going to go info, record created, and then we will go plus create CRM record response, which is this response that we get from Zoho when we create this record. So now the script should be 100% done. It should all be working. So if we now go back to our subform, go back, you see we've got our onboarding hash in here. So we want proof of address, last 3 months bank statement, proof of ID, last 3 months, proof of address, and birth certificate. So we're going to ask for all 4 documents. So before we do this, if we just go back to onboarding, oh, actually, I don't know how good it is, just the test record. So you can see here, we've got these 3, and they're all requested, okay? 1 is actually pending review. So let's delete these off. Actually, no, let's leave these on. So now when we submit this, we should have 7 in total, okay? So the first thing we'll do is we'll go back to the flow, and we'll look at how that worked. There we go. Look at that, folks. Record created, record created, record created, record created. Isn't that awesome? So there's all of our records. And if you were going to do further things with this, you could use this data. So you see, this is the ID of the new record we just created. Oh no, sorry, that's my user ID. This is the ID of the new record we just created. Sorry, now the doorbell's gone and the dogs are just going mad. I'm really sorry if you can hear that. Anyway, so let's go back to our onboarding, and if we refresh this, you can now see 7 onboarding items. Here they all are, and they've all got our client's name attached to them. It doesn't have the Mr. For some reason, I don't know where we were getting the Mr. from last time, but that is really good in my opinion. And if we click into one of them, oh, okay, so it hasn't created an onboarding hash, but I bet that's just because I don't have a workflow to create that onboarding hash. If I did, it would have worked because we put the trigger in. So workflow rules. This is just my system that I use for showing people how to do things. So yeah, no, there is no workflow set up on onboarding items. But you know, you've seen in my other videos how you can make those. Anyway, folks, that's all for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I saw some people on Reddit and where else, and on YouTube asking how to do this particular thing. So I wanted to make a video teaching you how. I really hope that you guys are keeping well and looking forward to Christmas. I've got some time off now, so I'm going to try and make a couple of extra videos, you know, over Christmas. If there's any particular topics that you're interested in, please let me know, and I'll be happy to take a look for you. Again, thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.